What's up everyone, welcome to the Auto 101. Today we're reviewing a 2021 Hyundai Palisade. Now this car came out a few years ago and Hyundai essentially used it to replace the larger Santa Fe. So prior to this car, the Santa Fe had two models. There was a smaller one and a larger one. The names are different between Canada and the States, but essentially when it came time to replace the Santa Fe, Hyundai split it into two models, with the Palisade taking over the role of the larger vehicle. These days in North America, as we all know, crossovers are more popular than ever, and especially this size of crossover, a 3-row crossover, is extremely popular for families looking for space for their kids and all their stuff. So today let's take a look at the Hyundai Palisade and see how it stacks up against its competition, because we all know there's a lot of competition out there. So let's talk about the first thing, which is styling. So we'll start off by talking about the exterior styling. The main designer for this car was a man by the name of Luke Donkerwalkie. I talked about him recently in my review of the Hyundai Elantra. And Luke came from the Volkswagen Auto Group, where he was kind of chief designer for Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, and Skoda. And looking at the outside of this car, you can kind of see some of that influence, especially from the Bentley side, because this car has a look to it that is, in my opinion, a little bit beyond its price point. Like, the Palisade has a look and aura to it from the outside that places it almost one level above. You could compare this visually almost to something like an Escalade or a Navigator, or almost even something like a Range Rover from certain angles. So I think from the outside perspective, they did a great job with the styling. My favorite feature is actually in the front, where there's this large grille and the headlights that are split into kind of two tiers or two levels. And I think the grille and that headlight combination works really well together. Another aspect that I really like is the side profile and the side windows. They've kind of done an interesting take on a floating roof, where you have the second row and first row windows being separated from the windows that are in the third row. So it looks very cool and looks very different to some of the other crossovers out there. On the inside, it's also styled very nicely and also looks very premium. If you take a look at how everything looks, it's clean, it's modern, there's no fuss in the styling details. There's a nice blend of black leathers and silver plastic and metal bits. So overall, the experience looks and feels very premium. Pressing all these buttons and pressing all these controls have a more plush feeling, and the overall visual look of it, again, similar to the outside, is almost one level above the class that it actually competes in. You can see that the infotainment screen integrates almost seamlessly with the dashboard, and you have this one kind of view in front of you, and then you have a super clean center console here that has all your climate controls and all your infotainment controls as well. So I think in the interior styling wise, at least in the front passenger cabin, it's very clean and very upscale. That being said though, I think a common problem with Hyundai in the past was that it would look nice and it would look nice and shiny when it was brand new, but over time some of the buttons and stuff wouldn't wear as well as maybe some of the competition. Like the fonts would rub off, or it would start to look more dated quicker than some other competitors. So we'll have to see if that's also the case for the Palisade, but strictly from a styling perspective, I think it's really nice. Let's talk about interior practicality. So it's a large crossover, so there's going to be a lot of space in all 3 rows. In the front here, I'm around 5'9", 5'10", and I have a lot of room when I'm driving. There's plenty of knee room, plenty of headroom, plenty of shoulder room. I'm comfortable. There's no real issues, and there's a lot of glass around the car, which helps with the visibility when you're driving on the road. So you don't feel like you're in a tight claustrophobic area where you can't really see or control the car around you. Second seats are also really comfortable and really spacious. If you have kids that you want to put in the second seat, there's lots of space. There's a plentiful amount of space for your kids and family in the back. And there's also a lot of features. There's USB ports everywhere. There's vents in the roof. The seats recline. They slide back and forth. So there's a lot of adjustability and customization in that second row seat to get it to the comfort level that you want. The good thing about this car is that there's also a third row of seats. So if there's any occasions where you want to road trip with more members, or you want to carry more people in the car, there's a third row that comes up, and you could store people in the back. That does eat into some of the cargo space, but there's still a sufficient amount of cargo space left after those third row seats are left up. And surprisingly, there's also a specific USB port in the third row seat, which is great. Interior cabin storage is also a strong point of the Palisade. The center cup holder area is huge. It's pretty much like a second center console. And speaking of the center console, there's also a plethora of space inside the center console. Like, it is deep. If I put my arm in the center console, it goes almost like elbow level. So you could get an idea of how deep the center console actually is from a cargo practicality standpoint. And the door cubbies are large, the glove box is large, there's storage underneath the center console here as well. So from a storage perspective, there's plenty of space in the Palisade. Cargo practicality is also a strong suit. I mentioned earlier that you could fold down the second row of seats. You could also fold down the third row of seats, and all of that can be done within an arm's reach from the trunk area. You could pull on these two wires or cords or straps to get the third row of seat down, and then you have these two automated buttons on the left-hand side. You press these buttons and the second row automatically falls down. Now, depending on if you have the seat reclined or where you have that seat positioned, it may not fall down completely flat, but you could adjust that to get a full flat floor all the way up to the front driver's seats. So for those IKEA trips and any trips where you need to store furniture, that's an awesome, awesome feature. Feature-wise, this car is loaded to the gills. It has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in the infotainment, which is pretty standard these days, but you also have a bunch of additional cool features. For example, in the infotainment, there's a special quiet mode, which only plays music in the front. So if you have passengers in the rear that you don't want to disturb, it's great to enable that mode. You also have this really cool kind of drive selector in the middle, and that cycles through your drive modes: Comfort, Eco, Sport, and Smart. And that kind of changes how the dash looks here in the middle as well. And I just think it's a really cool way to implement that. A lot of other cars have buttons, and it's just not as fun. This is just a fun way to kind of implement changing through those modes. You could kind of select your terrain modes. So the terrain modes are snow, mud, and sand, and that changes some of the configuration in the all-wheel drive system in this car to make it more, to increase its aptitude or increase its ability in each of those modes. So being here in Canada, having that snow mode is a great feature. And if you're going for like a cottage trip or a ski trip, I can imagine that being very, very useful if you have stuff in the back and people in the back to just pop it into snow mode and give you that extra comfort and that extra confidence. What's also great for Canada, a great feature, is a heated steering wheel. It gets cold up here, so if you're in the morning, you turn that heated steering wheel on, you'll be blessed. You'll be ready to go for the day. All right, let's talk about driving impressions. Now, a crossover isn't supposed to be a sports car. No one is going into it expecting a super lively and dynamic drive, and the Palisade is no exception. It's a comfortable everyday cruiser. For driving around town, it's comfortable. On the highway, it's confident and stable, so you don't have to worry about the car floating like some SUVs do. And on the positive side, when you put it into sport mode, there is a little bit of sportiness that you can enjoy. So it's also not something that is completely devoid of steering feel or driving dynamics. So I think Hyundai's done kind of a good balance of ensuring that it's a comfortable and confident everyday car, while also injecting a little bit of personality for those moments that you do want it. Speaking of the drive, let's also talk about the powertrain. Now, in international markets, the Palisade is offered with petrol and diesel engines. In North America, so Canada and the States, you only get a 3.8 liter V6. And it is a pretty powerful engine. You get close to your 300 horsepower, close to 300 pound-feet of torque. I'll put the exact details of the power figures right here below. But for a car of this size and an SUV of this size, there's plenty of power. You won't really feel like there's a lack of power. And you need that power if you're putting all the people and cargo in the back. It also has an automatic transmission, so you don't have to worry about the unreliability of a DCT or the poor response of a CVT. So I think it's good that Hyundai has stuck with a traditional automatic transmission in this car. Overall, the powertrain combination, especially with the all-wheel drive, it's comfortable. You have a nice, easy response in the engine. Transmission is well paired to the engine, and with the all-wheel drive, you know the car is sure-footed. So all in all, it works well as a family cruiser, a family everyday car. Fuel economy is what you would expect in this classic car. It's nothing noteworthy or outstanding, not terribly poor, not terribly exceptional, but right around average. You can see here, I'll put a graph either on this side or this side of what people are seeing in terms of fuel economy, so you could judge for yourself if it's something that suits your driving style and suits your driving needs. So how is the Palisade in this segment? It's a super competitive segment. Almost every major manufacturer and every major automaker has an entry in this class right now. So how does the Palisade fare from a value perspective? Well, I think it actually fares pretty well. We talked about all the features that it has, and we've talked about how it's a well-rounded package of everything that you would want in a family crossover. So pricing wise, in Canada, it starts in the low 40s, which again is typical for the class, but I think the benefit with the Hyundai is that you get a couple of more standard features and a couple more niceties that kind of help elevate the value proposition. And if you're someone who really cares about styling and a premium look, the premium styling of the outside and the inside also add to the overall value proposition of the Palisade. So I think in this particular class, the Palisade is a great buy. You have lots of space, lots of features, lots of amenities. It looks nice inside and out. All right, so thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you guys think of the Hyundai Palisade. What would you pick? What's your choice in this segment? Palisade or Telluride? What are you going with? So yeah, let me know. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. More content coming soon, so stay tuned, and I'll catch you guys next time.